We're here today talking to someone who I would class as an ornament of the of the UK scene, the theatre, a beautiful glittering ornament. How does that feel?
It feels very glamorous, thank you.
The glamour of it all.
Yes.
We're here talking to Marilyn Cutts. Marilyn, it's a delight for us to catch up with you today because you have had an incredible 12 months.
Yes, I have, one way and another.
Now, at the moment, you're at the Menier Chocolate Factory.
Yes.
Playing in Funny Girl.
Yes.
You enjoying it?
Loving it.
Loving it. But I want to start off with the question, how did you get into the business? Because you have had such a varied career. I mean, you really have done everything. You've directed, you've been in films, you've been in musicals, you've been in opera, you've been in, well, Fascinating Aida, we'll get to that in a moment. But how did you get started? What?
There were two lightning strikes, if you like.
Okay.
And the first one was probably when I was about 3 or 4, when my mother took me to the ballet at the Royal Festival Halls. And it was a selection of ballets, but the one I particularly remember was seeing the Sugar Plum Fairy. And I prayed to be the little girl at the feet of the Sugar Plum Fairy. And then when I was 12, I was taken to see Robert Stevens in The Royal Hunt of the Sun at the National. And again, I realised saying this, it was movement that triggered it, because bless him, there he was leaping around in not much more than a G-string and creating magic with his body and language. And that as well, you know, I walked around with my head just pulsating for about a week. And it wasn't a question of wanting to do that so much, it was just experiencing that. So I was an avid theatre goer. You
know, there's lots of conversations that go on about bringing new audiences to the theatre, and people always say, you know, the young crowd, this show will do it, you know, when a new trendy sort of show comes along. And I've always argued it's not the young crowd you need to get in, it's the kids. You need to get children when they are, whether it's 5 or 6 or 7 or something, you know, to see the ballet or something. It needs to be so much larger than their life to make an impact. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. And that also suggests that theatre or any kind of entertainment is something other, and I don't think it is. It's other in the sense that you have to go there to experience it, and tickets may be pricey, and sometimes there's this protocol about what you were to go. But actually doing it and being part of it is not something removed, it's something that's in us and that we can do anywhere, in your own bedroom, in your own living room, in the schoolroom, in the playground. It's just sort of bigger with better lighting when you go into a theatre.
Which leads me to Fascinating Aida. There's lots of people, young artists, that start some sort of cabaret lineup, a review, comedy. Very few hit a chord like Fascinating Aida did. I mean, you really cut through and got a tremendous audience following.
I don't feel I can honestly talk much about that, because when I haven't worked with them for such a long time now, and it was very much Delie's creation. She had played, I suppose it would be cocktail piano, to support herself when she was studying.
We're getting it yet again. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My God, that's 10. We're really much too tired to tussle his winkles turned into a...
We all had experience as performers. In fact, in some ways, when we were on that circuit, we were the grand old ladies, because we were considerably older than most of the other people coming up. So there was that as well, which I suppose we had a bit of experience in how to present ourselves.
Well, that comes across in the performances that are still on YouTube.
Yes.
There's a lot, I mean, it's saying something, because it's a while ago, you know. If people are interested enough to upload these videos after all this time to YouTube, I mean, they're really...
After work, a woman runs for the bus. Her children are waiting. She was serving in a shop, couldn't stop anticipating. But the children want to play, and they say, oh, just let us be. And she sees that their childhood has already gone. They've moved on.
so many highlights to your career. As you look down the list, one that stands out to me is the National Theatre production of Oklahoma. When you meet someone, now by that time, you'd had a lot of experience. You meet this young guy, Hugh Jackman, and of course he is seriously one of the biggest stars in the world now.
He wasn't then.
No. What did you make of looking back now?
He was
Did
this tall, skinny chap who could sing a bit.
Yeah.
Very personable.
Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain, and the waving wheat can sure smell sweet when the wind comes right behind the rain.
Something that you may have experienced and that I've experienced with very few people is that the ones who are really good, when they're on stage, they grow.
We know we belong to the land, and the land we belong to is grand.
The other person that I absolutely know that this happens with is David Suchet. They just become...
That's a good way of describing it, actually.
Much bigger physically. And I was covering Maureen Lipman in Oklohoma as well as playing Armina, the character you may not see in the cast list, but she had a name. And the first time I went on for Maureen, I was churning the butter and you're in the auditorium at the Olivier, which is... It looks much smaller when you're on stage than it does when you're there, but it's extremely expensive. And Hugh walked on and suddenly the entire auditorium was obliterated. There was just Hugh in that direction and you in that direction. Everywhere I looked there was Hugh. Okay, he's 6'3" to start with, but stick him in Cuban heels and a big Stetson and he's just enormous. But he has that ability to just grow. So that is charisma.
Is that star quality?
It is absolutely star quality. And I tell you that the last time I saw it was watching Hannah Waddingham. I saw it when she came on in Little Night Music, but when she just walked on in Kiss Me Kate, and I'd worked with her by then.
She's a star.
It just knocked me to the back of the seat.
Yeah.
It's an extraordinary quality.
Wicked.
Yes.
This has taken up some time for you in the last couple of years.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years touring.
Wicked for me is an anomaly because I've seen it a few times and I quite like it. I genuinely do, but I don't understand that it's this massive hit that people go crazy for. That I don't quite get. Les Mis I get, but with Wicked, what is it? Is it the Wizard of Oz connection or?
It's partly that, but I think there are lots of adolescent girls, and they're the core audience for the show.
True.
Who come not necessarily knowing the story of the Wizard of Oz terribly well.
No, I couldn't.
It seems to promise the mystery of life. What these people who are so important to me, what is a friendship as opposed to a lover? Do the two overlap? What is the differentiation? And a lot of I won't say the questions are addressed, but they appear to be addressed.
Sharing one wonderful one short day.
Then, of course, it's heightened by some really good jokes.
Song. Really good jokes, really good music.
Yes.
Really good colour, really good set design.
And excellent choreography as well.
Excellent choreography. So I suppose it's layer upon layer, really. It's just...
I think so.
Yeah.
And people do go back again and again. One always gets those members of an audience, and you know, I saw All Under the Sun at least 5 times, so I can hold my hand up to that one. But it satisfies, and I think it's also an incredibly well-structured piece, because what it does, which the best fiction should do, is that it stimulates a desire for an outcome, but then it gratifies that desire in a way you hadn't expected.
am defying gravity. I'm flying high, defying.
Is Madame Horrible one of those parts that occasionally you get home and you think, gee, it's good playing that part today because I let off some steam. I really.
It's extremely cathartic. I can't tell you how much. And there were occasions when I had to scream, and people would say, that was really hard tonight, and you think, yep. So absolutely glorious. And yes, this is acting as therapy. But it isn't just that, it's more using the energy of the day. That, you know, this is the fuel you've got to work with this evening, so let's go with it. It may be a negative or a positive or a jubilant energy, but just use the energy.
A chocolate factory for Funny Girl. How does it feel to be a part of a show, albeit in a rather small venue, that has sold out in 90 minutes? I mean, there is an audience busting a gut to see this show if they buy all of the season in about 90 minutes, isn't there?
There is, and I know this because people I've never heard of before have been phoning me up and saying, hello, I'm Danny Dye, do you remember me? Well, could you get me tickets? No, that's what sold out means, no.
Particularly in a place where there aren't any tickets you can pull out of the hat.
So then your seat's 180.
Yes.
It's very snug.
Why do you think it hasn't been produced for so long?
Because the book is a bit problematic.
Yeah.
I mean, why aren't so many musicals by Ivor Novello or Cole Porter done? Because the books are ropey.
So Harvey Firestone has reworked this.
Yes.
Can you categorically say that he's done a job on it and brought it up to?
Yes, except I don't know the original terribly
Sure.
well. What I do know is that the director, Michael Mayer, Harvey didn't come over. Apparently he doesn't like flying. So a lot of it was done with email. But Michael is a very good editor, and he has a fantastic feel for where where each scene needs to go and where the architecture of the show needs to go, where the highs and lows come, and where it needs to be comic and where it needs to pull back. He was extremely open to that. So when we had discussions in performance, and we did, in rehearsal I should say, there was one particular time we were doing an interview for a newspaper, and I was asked something and gave an answer about the original Mrs. Bryce. And Michael came back to me after and said, that's a very interesting point you made there, I'm going to tell Harvey. Well, then the next day we got a new version of a big old scene which had taken on board this point that I'd made, that Mrs. Bryce Senior probably, undoubtedly, with a maternal instinct, does not want her daughter to repeat her mistakes. We did a workshop together a few years back, playing mother and daughter, so it was just lovely to go back to the mother, albeit a rather different mother-daughter relationship.
How
Yes,
did she handle the comedy?
Brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant. And I watched
Because there's such dynamic in that role, isn't there?
Yes, yes.
Because there's beautiful songs and beautiful ballads and just straight out,
Yes.
slapstick and.
It's a gift of a role for her because the things that she does best are called upon in
Isn't
that
that
role.
great?
Yeah.
Isn't that great? So we're going to have a hit with Funny Girl at the Savoy. Thank you so much for talking to us today and taking your time before you rush into the chocolate factory, and good luck with it all going forward. I hope it does run for months and months at the Savoy, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, John.